Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Star Wars, The Acolyte. It was called Choices, and as it begins, on Brendok, 16 years in the past, the four Jedi are looking for a vergence, a concentration of Force energy around a location that can create life, which it apparently did on Brendok, which was previously considered lifeless, but which now has Force and whatnot. When Saul comes across the twins, as we saw in the previous episode. He follows them to the fortress and begins scaling a wall to get in, and once inside, witnesses the twins being trained in the thread. He brings the other Jedi there, and they break in and interrupt the witch's ceremony, as we saw before, whereupon Mother Anastasia invades Torben's mind and tempts him to ask her to return him to Coruscant before releasing him, again as we saw in the previous episode, but only from one side. Saul tells Indira he feels like Osha should be his Padawan and that she wants to leave with them. May fails the test, as we saw before, and tells Saul and Indira her mother has taught her about walking through fear and that sacrifice is necessary for her and Osha to lead the coven after ascension. Indira tells the others that the council has told them not to continue interfering in the kids' lives, but when Torben realizes the kids are his ticket home after their blood tests come back, and it seems they were created by a vergence and are proof of one, he goes after the girls. Saul tries to stop him as Coral locks everyone into the fortress and sends the witches off in anger to stop the girls from being taken, and May starts the fire but then immediately regrets it. Saul asks Mother Anastasia how the twins were created, but before she can answer, May comes to ask for help, and during the distraction, Coral goes to attack the Jedi, and when Torben ignites his lightsaber in defense, Mother Anastasia turns into a ghost-like form, and May begins to do likewise, causing Saul to strike Mother Anastasia's ghost form, killing her right in front of May. Coral and the witches then control Kilnaka, and he attacks Torben and Saul, and is only stopped when Indara fixes his mind, seemingly killing the witches. Saul then finds the twins on the bridge, as we saw, and tries to save both girls from falling off of it, but when he can't, he sacrifices May in order to use his abilities to at least try to save Osha. Saul, Torben, and Indara then argue about what happened, and Indara orders a cover-up of what exactly that was against Saul's wishes. So I like this episode. It was basically the other side of what happened in episode 3 when we first met the witches and all of that. And so it filled in the blanks of the story of what happened on Brendok, which I thought was cool. And of course, we got the awesome fight featuring Kilnaka, which was wild. So I liked all of that, but I have questions. Where is Mother Coral? She turns into a mist and I guess goes into Kilnaka. And then with the help of the other witches, like focusing on that, that's how they controlled him. But we don't see her die. So what happened to her? Also, are all the other witches dead or just like knocked out? We don't actually know. Unless we assume that once the Jedi left, they, indeed perished in the fire. So I guess that's what we're supposed to think. We know that May survived the fall and that she somehow ends up with Kamir, but we still don't know how that happened. So hopefully we'll get that information in episode 8. But there were things about the episode I didn't like, and that has to do with the story. They wrote it that Saul was all of a sudden very invested in Osha. He says he feels a connection to her and he wants her to be his Padawan. And I know that the Jedi, when they come across kids that, might be force sensitive, they sort of try to get them, into the Jedi training program. But Indara even says that these kids were already too old. But Saul still has this feeling. And I don't understand that because he met them for 2 minutes. Like, what inspired that feeling and what drove him so hard to want to, take her on as his Padawan? And also, he wanted to save both girls from the coven, but like, I don't understand why he sensed that they were in any danger. I didn't really see where that would come from. May does say something about her mother having said they need to sacrifice for the coven, but like, was that really enough for him to feel this deep-seated need to rescue, quote unquote, the girls from the coven? Because that's what drives everything else that happens. So I guess it was a convergence of things, which, includes Saul's need to want to save the girls, which I guess by the time he ended up doing so was a valid concern, given that everything was about to come to blows. But like, I don't get why he felt they were in danger. I think they didn't have to write that part, you know? He could just have said, we need to bring them into the order and train them, and that could have been his motivation. They didn't have to give him this sort of need to save them thing because it doesn't make sense. Like, save them from what? Like, where are you getting this? You've known them for 2 minutes. You've known the witches for 2 minutes. Like, what are you talking about? Because anyway, I don't think things would have gotten to that point even though, because Saul probably would have listened to the council reluctantly, but ended up having to save the girls literally because of what Torben did. So I don't know why they had to give him this whole, feeling of wanting to save them anyway, like before all of that happened, because they would have got there. So I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. Anyway, one more episode left. We still don't know how May and Kamir got together. We don't know how Kamir is tied to anything else that happened, if he is at all. And if he's not, it's kind of weird. Like, it's just a side thing that happened in addition to what happened on Brendock. So that's going to seem weird if they don't tie it together. But then if they do tie it together, how does he fit in? Is he Coril? Like, did she use the thread to change genders or something? But he says he used to be a Jedi, so it can't be that unless he's lying. I don't know. I guess we'll see next week. I hope they're able to bring it to some kind of a satisfying conclusion to what we've seen so far, because I can't see them getting a second season with all the hate this show is getting. Although they say it's the best performing Star Wars show. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. But I thought this episode was okay. The fighting was awesome. It filled in the puzzles pieces from what we saw in episode 3, and that was good. So I liked it, but it wasn't without issues that affect the larger narrative. So this show on the whole is not great. It's I don't know, it's wonky. But a couple of the episodes have been good as self-encapsulated stories. So you got to give them credit for that. At least I think you do. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a breakdown and review of the finale once it's released. Until I return, may the force be with you.